All right, people. Good morning. Happy Saturday. We got some college football going on today, but we got to open with a little bit of Seahawks discussion because we got a game in about 25 hours here. Um, Going to Detroit, playing the Lions. I think it's the first time we've been to Detroit since 2018. And this is kind of turning into a pivotal moment for the Seahawks team. On paper, in theory, if you lose to this Lions team with all the injuries they have, then you may be on the road to that 2-3 win season because you are not going to find many opponents on this schedule softer than the Detroit Lions, missing Amon-Ra St. Brown, DeAndre Swift, Jonah Jackson, and possibly, by the way, possibly missing DJ Chark and Josh Reynolds. Their offense is completely wrecked right now. They're going to have Goff. They're going to have some of the offensive line, but their offense is in a bad way right now. And their defense is in a bad way by default because they've been giving up points like crazy. So this is kind of turned into a game like last week where I said, if you want to win a few games, you're not going to have many better opportunities than Atlanta at home. And getting this Detroit team at the point that they're at right now is it's almost as good as it gets. So this is a pivotal moment because if you win this game, then maybe you're on that road to being a whatever bad team. The 5-win, 6-win, maybe 7-win team. That gets put on the table a little bit, I think. So this is to find out. And I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, this team's going to get better as the year goes on. They're going to have a better defense in November and December because, well, they can't get worse and they're going to get used to each other. They're going to get used to the scheme. But for the most part, I look at this schedule and I go, by the time that happens, it might be too late. Maybe it'll pan out against a team like the Jets, maybe the Panthers, but you've got some heavy hitters coming up. So you might get it right in time for it to not really matter that much. So this is an opportunity. You are playing a team that is severely wounded, missing a bunch of their playmakers. Offense is kind of a wreck. And if your defense can't find a way to make a few plays against this Lions offense in its current state, then you might just be hopeless. So that's probably going to be the start of this conversation. Your defense is bad. It's really bad. You've actually found a way to not give up a ton of points, but teams are going up and down the field on you like it's nothing, particularly running the ball. And stopping the run is something that this team has traditionally done ever since Pete Carroll got here. Our run defense most years has been great. So we're sitting here watching a run defense that looks like it's one of the worst in the league. And stopping the run mostly is just about fundamentals. Tackle well, fill your lane, and don't overrun things. Don't get overly aggressive, and you'll find a way to stop the run most of the time. So that's like the very basic level. The very basic level of defense is currently lost on this Seahawks team. And if that doesn't change, it's going to be hard to win any games. What are you going to do when teams realize they can just run the ball practically every play on you, and you're never going to turn it over? It's really hard to turn the ball over in a running play. That doesn't happen that often. We've actually already had 3 opposing turnovers this year on running plays, so there probably aren't going to be a ton more. And then you don't even have to worry about risking putting the ball in the air. So that needs to get better. And you're playing a Lions team that is going to be down to Jamal Williams as their main running back. They're not going to be able to put Amon-Ra St. Brown in the backfield on top of not having DeAndre Swift. So their options are very limited. And they're missing one of their starting guards. I looked at the Falcons last week and I said, okay, not a very good offensive line. Cordarrelle Patterson's a nice player, but he's a gadget player. You should be able to do a little better against the run this week, and you didn't. You really didn't. Not even close. So the start of it to me is get some guys on that line, get some guys up on the defensive line. No more two-man fronts, no more wide nine. It's not working on any level. Or if you run it, you better at least find a way to generate some pressure with it, because that's the reason why you run wide nine. It helps generate pressure. So I don't I don't see what the point is of running it, because it's making us weak against the run and it's not helping against the pass. So add it together and it's like, whoa, what do we have here? We have a defense that just doesn't do anything well. You get three guys on the defensive line, or four, I guess, if you want to talk about going back to the 4-3, but you get three guys on the defensive line, and suddenly you've got some guys who can eat up blockers so that your linebackers can make some plays. You're not just giving up those gaps so easily. So you can do that. If you do that well, then you're forcing the Lions to try to beat you through the air. And Jared Goff's having a pretty decent year. He's got a great arm. We know, we're pretty familiar with Jared Goff. He's a limited player, but he's not a bad player. There are definitely issues with his game. He's not a great thinker. He's not somebody who you want dissecting a defense on the fly, but he has a great arm and he can make all the throws. So you are possibly facing him without many of his top weapons. We already know they don't have Jamison Williams, who would have been one of their top weapons. Chark, Reynolds, could go either way. They have TJ Hawkinson, but they definitely don't have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, to me, that's the guy. Amon-Ra St. Brown's awesome. Like, I remember scouting that guy in the draft, being pretty impressed, and he's been even better than I expected him to be in the NFL. So, you put Goff in those situations where he actually has to think. If you can find a way to throw some exotic looks at him on defense, some of the stuff that we were hoping was going to be there going into the season, then maybe you can get him thinking. Maybe you can put him in a bad situation, and maybe you can get some of those turnovers. He is fully capable of doing that. You just need to give him something to think about. He doesn't have Sean McVay protecting him anymore the way that he used to. He's on a team with much less talent and much less offensive acumen than he was on the Rams. So if you get him thinking, good things can happen. Now, I can say all that, but I got to say right now, my confidence in this defense is low. So many of the players are playing badly, like really badly. Darrell Taylor genuinely looks like one of the worst players in the league. The defensive linemen, except for Al Woods, look terrible for the most part. Some of the corners are playing all right, but Kobe Bryant at nickel is not really working well. So, bottom line is this. I'm not going to believe this defense is capable of playing a good game until I see it. I saw some of it against Denver, admittedly. The Denver game, the defense was able to do some things, but they also struggled doing some other things. And since then, we've had two games where we couldn't stop the run, got basically no pressure, and gave up a lot of significant completions. There was no level where the defense played well. The fact that you were able to hold your opponent below 30 points in both those games is a miracle. But at the end of the day, you're still looking at it like, man, if the other team needed to score 50 points to beat us, they would have scored 50. 49ers scored what they needed to do and turned it off. Falcons scored what they needed to do and ended the game. So I'm just not believing in this defense yet. So I can say all these things that they hopefully do. I'm not convinced. So it's up to the offense. It's up to the offense. And the good news is, I actually think the offense is going to have some success. The offense has played fairly well overall this season. Now, I don't want to exaggerate it, but they've had 6 good quarters and 6 bad quarters, I guess. And 4 of those 6 bad quarters are somewhat understandable given the circumstance. They've moved the ball fairly well. They've kept their turnovers down. They started to find themselves running the ball last week after getting off to a somewhat disappointing start. And I just feel pretty good about this one. It's in a dome, and that Lions defense, they've got Aiden Hutchinson on that defensive line. He's playing okay. But it's a defense that is really low on obvious blue chippers, except for maybe Okudah. And Okudah, I mean, he's good. He's good. And good for him, by the way, because I forgot that dude existed. But I don't look at Okudah and say, oh, That's Okuda Island. Don't throw the ball over there. Do not even attack his side of the field. No, I don't do that yet. I think you can get him. I think you can get him a few times. Metcalf already kind of poo-pooed the notion of Okuda being some amazing shutdown cornerback. And while Okuda's playing good, I do agree. I do think there's some validity to what Metcalf had to say about Okuda. And past that, some of the better players on this Lions defense, like Tracy Walker, are out. I believe Tracy Walker is actually on IR, so you don't even have to really worry about him right now at all. And you look at like their defensive line; they've got the Rams guy, shoot, the one tech, Brockers, yeah, Brockers, and he's playing okay, kind of, sort of, not really though. And to my eye, you can run the ball on the Lions, especially to the outside. So we saw a little bit of running the ball outside against the Falcons, and it worked all right. The fly sweep we ran with Kenneth Walker was a big play. Let's see more of that. Let's run the ball to the outside. Let's try to get this Lions team defending to the boundaries. It seems to me you can do that on them. Other than that, I think the game can take care of itself on offense. I trust Geno to play a good game, like I said, in a dome against a defense that I just don't think is that good. I think he can avoid turnovers. I think he can get the ball to his playmakers. I don't see a lot going on with that linebacker core that is going to be a big problem for our tight ends. I think our tight ends can have a big game. And I think this running game will continue to get on track with a game like this one. So I'm seeing some points. Maybe it won't be as many as we like because there are going to be some field goals, but I think we're going to put up some significant points. Will it be enough, though, is the question. And right now, I think I'm going to have to say no. It's in Detroit. Detroit is playing fairly well this year. Let's not beat around the bush here. This is a team that has the same record as us, but they're, quite frankly, playing very frisky football. They're putting up great fights in both of their losses. They were hanging in there. And let's remember, Detroit's coming off a kind of rough loss. They had that game. They were controlling that whole game, it felt like. And then they just let it get away from them at the very end. They tried to kick a dumb field goal instead of going for it on 4th and short. And it backfired on them in the most spectacular way. And they lost. And they are coming out of that game wounded. And they're going to look to take it out on the next team they play, which happens to be us. And I know some people may say, well, we had the same position against the Falcons. It's a little bit different, right? That game was back and forth. Falcons came out on top. That game was very much an even affair. Punch, counter punch, and we were the team on the bottom at the end. Lions felt like they just had that game under control, and then it just got away from them in a kind of difficult to explain way. So I think they're going to come out angry. I think they're going to come out with some real ferocity, and I think they're going to overcome the injuries. And I think it's going to be like a 31-27 type game. I'm going to say something like that. High scoring, a lot of points, maybe back and forth. But at the end of the day, I think Detroit, they're just in a little bit of a better spot right now. I just don't believe in this defense right now. They got to show me something, man. They got to show me they can stop the run. They got to show me they can do things fundamentally correctly. Right now, the fundamentals of football are just lacking a little bit. And if they can get fundamentally sound, then I'm going to start believing they can actually start playing good. But it's a process. You got to get to the fundamentals, and then you can get to the actually over-the-top good play. So that's really all I can say for this one. I think that we are going to see some positives. I think we are going to see some highlights. But at the end of the day, that Detroit offensive line, which is very good, Sewell on one side, you've got Frank Ragnow in the middle. He's healthy for this game. Logan Stenberg, and then you've got Taylor Decker. Nice offensive line, even missing Jonah Jackson. And I don't think our defensive line is ready for what they're going to throw at us. So that's my call. I will see you guys later on today. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think we can find a way? I think it'll be a good game. That's what I can say. And hey, when your team is playing good games, then I guess that's better than playing bad games. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.